let you go first. Go
Okay,
ahead.
I'll go first. Well, I grew up around chinoiserie in general. My grandfather was a colonel in the Air Force, and so they were stationed in the Philippines and Taiwan, and so they brought back a ton of furniture from the Orient, and so I grew up around, bamboo motifs and all kinds of chinoiserie and ginger jar vases and that sort of thing. So I already had that those seeds planted in my head, and so now I just try to find ways that I think would work, that would be approachable for my clients. I want it to be updated, so I try to, sometimes overscaling things gives it a naturally modern look. I find that's a pretty easy way. Some things, when things are a little asymmetrical or they go off the page a little bit, they may feel more modern. So I just try to take those elements that I think my clients would relate to in a modern context, and then just kind of change it up from there, which many times means changing the scale is probably the main way I do it.
And a lot of the fretwork pieces in gold. This isn't your mirror here.
Yeah,
That
it
is
is
That
right
is,
here.
okay,
Yeah.
that's a good example then of what we saw
Right.
in a lot of the tables and the bases. Make sure you see the chevron for the chevron. Okay, Jamie?
Yeah. I think what she's talking about, like taking traditional forms and trying to tweak them up so they look a little fresh and a little modern. But I think also one of the things that all three of us bring, because as interior designers and in doing commercial projects and things, is when we're designing stuff, we're trying to design stuff that as a retailer or as a designer would be saleable to our clients. I mean, there are a lot of times I think when you look at things in showrooms and you think, wow, that is so amazing and so fabulous, but then when you try to apply it to a job or to your shop, you think, I'll never be able to sell that. Or who am I going to place that with? So I think all three of us have sort of looked at what we create or try to create that looks fresh, looks modern, but is accessible. So it's sort of fashion forward and stylish, but usable.
Right,
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, and it goes together well. I mean,
Yeah.
have you guys, it looks like you work together when I see the pieces in the showroom and how beautifully they complement each other.
Well,
It's
yeah,
gorgeous.
well,
Which is cool.
Yeah. But I actually think it's the design aesthetic of Chelsea House too.
Yeah, exactly.
It is,
It fits in with that mix.
I was just gonna say that, like, Chelsea House is such an incredibly well-developed platform. Like, you can take the tea caddy and you can, I took one and sort of dipped it in gold with just a clean white. So the traditional foundation is there, you're just giving it a twist, and there's so many shapes and forms and just iconic motifs we're already familiar with, that Chelsea House is so known for.
Right,
That
right.
kind of makes it easy, in a sense, in terms of
And it fits in with our
you
design
know,
aesthetic. I
yeah.
think it's like traditional, but it's trying to be fresh.
And
Right.
speaking of the iconic motifs like the pagoda lamp, your
Yes.
gorgeous
Yeah.
interpretation of
The onyx
that.
one with the brass. Oh, I love that.
Thank you, I didn't do that.
Oh. Just take the credit. That's it. Just say you did
We all
that.
gave you credit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a pagoda fetish, actually, we were,
Me too.
so, yeah, any of that chinoiserie stuff. I grew up with a hairdresser that didn't mind changing a room in 10 minutes.
That's rearranged.
And then grandfather that was a musician, and they traveled all the time, and so my grandmother could set up an apartment in about a minute.
Right.
So I think this stuff just gets into your DNA.
It does.
Um,
Yeah, we joke about it.
Are there any materials or color palettes that work better when you're blending the modern and traditional influences?
I'm gonna say for me, I think some of the things that, there's like a lot of that white painted furniture, which for us, being the Eastern Shore and trying to riff on like things that, historic Tidewater homes and trying to make those fresh. But I think the white painted stuff, to me, makes traditional forms look fresh, and it sort of looks very Florida, very Palm Beach. I'm pointing over that way because there's some pieces in there.
Right.
But to me, that's an easy way to take a traditional form and give it, and it's not a glossy finish, it's kind of a matte finish, which I think looks more fresh and up to speed.
Right.
And I think that's been an easy way for me to freshen things up.
And you told a funny story this morning about the blue and white, the clients seem to love. Tell us this story again.
One of my designers is over there laughing now. Yeah, on the Eastern Shore where we live, we sell a lot of blue and white everything. And we joke about the fact that we're kind of tired of doing blue and white houses all the time for people. And so we've gotten to the point, basically, there's a basket in the back of the shop that has the blue and white house in it. And we just sort of put it on the table. And it's like, here's your house. Do you like this? And they're like, great. And then we all joke about the fact that it's another blue and white house. They're both over there like, yes, we know exactly what